I was looking for a project that we could learn something about the materials of electronic music and about the physics of instruments. And so the project that came first to my mind was David Tudor's Rainforest, in fact, Rainforest 4, which is a very extensive collection of objects that are individually chosen for their sound response. We had 20 objects altogether, with 13 participants in the project. So it's a rather large orchestra for Rainforest standards. The original Rainforest of David Tudor was conceived in 1968 as a commission for the Merce Cunningham Dance Company. And it was indeed for a project with various artists. So, for example, Jasper Johns made the costumes for this, and Andy Warhol created these elaborate cushions. David Tudor wrote this music, which is very free. In fact, the score is just a block diagram showing that a couple of objects from usually everyday use would be affixed with transducers, so you attach a transducer to it. So a transducer is basically a device that electromagnetically transfers vibrations onto any surface that it is attached to. So it's like a speaker without the membrane. I was just picking it up. Wow! This thing is twitching. Look at that. Oh yeah. Okay, I need more mass to excite this. That's it. When we decided to do this project, I was pretty scared because I'm a sound guy, and working with objects and their visual presence entailed working with a dimension that is not my terrain. And so I was very glad to have an absolutely wonderful collaborator in Professor Alan Topolski from the Visual Arts program at the University of Rochester at Sage Hall. And he graciously agreed to mentor this project. Then we went to the junkyard, because where were we to get these large objects that have been consistently used in the so far performance practice of the piece? We went with the people there wearing helmets and scavenged the yard for objects to use in Rainforest. There's this scrapyard called Metallico. It's in Scottsville, so very close to Rochester Center, and they were amazingly generous. So what we found were mostly metallic objects, resonators, vessels, buckets, cauldrons, cylinders, old radios, electronic circuits, bars, tubes, pipes, amazing array of materials that all found usage in our project. So at the recycling facility, we gathered all these objects and took them to a workspace that was provided to us by the Memorial Art Gallery of Rochester, which hosted this project. It was a wonderful collaboration with curator Andrew Cappetta. And in that workshop, we started assembling the objects. Before actual final assembly, we tested them all for sonic response. So we took transducers of various sizes and attached them to the various objects to see which transducer would match up the best to making that object ring.
Oh, that's like it's kind of boring. Let's see if it works for, because the other transducer didn't really produce straight, but so it'd be good to have a sequence so that we know that whatever is because it's really fit. Okay, it's very distorted. Oh, so is that a brake drum? Yes.
I was just playing around and putting transducers on this brake drum, and I found that just by putting noise through it, I could get all sorts of really strange resonant frequencies, and then I essentially felt compelled to just keep going with it. So this would normally...
For most students, this was the first project of this kind to engage with. So I don't think they were looking for something very particular, but were just experimenting with the material, which I very much welcome. Without experimentation, you cannot enlarge your repertoire. And so some had a fairly specific idea and then took the objects that they found and worked with to realize this idea with.
I think I was just inspired by the water element of Rainforest and took that in a more literal way, so I thought it would be kind of fun to do that. Sounds are mostly modified water sounds, things you'd hear in a gutter, from a sink, but they're all sort of deformed and changed up a little bit, just like the sculpture.
Right now I'm just playing a single tone and just putting it on the plate and then watching the stuff. I was thinking maybe something like you put over your head, or like, I don't know, something you like walk under, and it's just kind of like, well, all of a sudden, so I was like thinking maybe I could, well, this, I could just like hang it like that, maybe it sounds cool, I'm not sure, and then I could put like maybe one of these over it.
So people would like walk under a whole bunch of circular...
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
I think it's clearly comfortable with actual
Placement of the objects played a very important role, and Alan and I planned for quite a while. In fact, Alan did most of the placement of the works, while I did the sounding of the works. We had altogether 32 output channels, so because some of the objects contain several transducers. And so hanging them in space actually followed roughly three areas: industrial objects, natural objects, and everyday objects. We were fortunate to have the lighting designer of the Eastman Opera department come in and put the lights on, and he did an absolutely wonderful job. His name is Nic Minetor, and he took great care to put the lights in such a way as to work out the shadows on the floor and on the ceilings, and to work with the reflections. And it's true, it's an amazing way to see the objects being transformed in the space and actually lose their original meaning to become something else and engage in a strange narrative with each other as you were walking through the space. For this particular scenario, we made a max patch where you had the liberty to completely be free in where to send which sound. And we've made a little trajectory through which the sound snaked then in a consistent way. And as the same sound moves through different objects, it actually gets filtered each time. And so it's a marvelous and very smooth transformation of the sound. So if you were standing in the space without moving around, you could hear the sound coming through that object and passing through the object above you or beside you, and then moving on in space.
I thought it was way cooler than I could have imagined. I mean, I'd never seen any of the dancers' works before, so I was excited to see what it would be like, but I wasn't expecting anything as interactive as what it was, because it also like invited other people to be more curious about what the pieces were and to kind of think of them more conceptually as opposed to just things that are hanging.
I think these kind of projects are very important because composition has reached today a level where it is branching out in all directions, into the direction of spatial design, in terms of spatial audio, into electronics and the body using sensors, motion sensors, or different ways to interact with the machine, which influence then in turn the sound and the morphology of the sounds that are. The more we interact with our bodies, the more it has an impact on the sound itself. And David Tudor's concept is really timeless because it is at once specific and open. It is specific in the sense that the basic nucleus of an idea is the fixed thing, but everything else is really open for interpretation. And so this can still be played in 100 years when we have left materials such as metal or wood long behind, and we have maybe some new materials that contain electronics or so. This piece will still be something that is of great interest because it is showcasing also the materiality of our time, and it is articulating it with sound, and that's a pretty great idea.